back to another episode of Critical Affection, where we affectionately criticize the pop culture that we love. And today we are talking about Godzilla and Kong, the New Empire. And don't worry, I think Maddox is joining us here. We're not forgetting anybody. We have a little bit of a Laguna news, but I think I'm gonna save that to the end because we today have, as of course, obviously, the Kaiju King himself, Mr. Matt Frank.
Well. How the turntables have turned. Who would have thought? 2 Godzilla movies. They all said I was crazy. They said I was, dare I say, mad. I just like this big Godzilla, I like holding him. Hi guys.
I freaking love that one. I
I
want it, but I can't find it anywhere. I wanted it so bad.
I've seen it at a few places here in Austin. If you really want one, I'll get it for you.
I might take you up on that offer if our Target doesn't get their shit together.
Seriously, I just saw one the other day over at we actually still have an FYE at the mall in up at Lakeline, and they had one. So wow. Seriously, if you want one, I'll go get it for you.
To be fair, I haven't checked them in a bit, so they might have them now, but they did sell out really fast right away. And then but I haven't checked recently, so
I mean, I did go in to like a Walmart recently, like after the film, and it just had been like all their Godzilla Kong stuff had just been like torn off the shelves. Like there was like nothing left.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Lost the tail.
Okay, so just so we're all on the same page here.
Yep.
There are definitely going to be spoilers in this show. Do not stay here if you want to not be spoiled on Godzilla and Kong, the New Empire. Do not. Just leave right now. Come back and watch it later. You're gonna get spoiled.
Yeah. Don't get all pissy about it. And I don't know. That's my. That's clearly my impression of how other people talk.
Works for me.
Yeah. Anyway.
Red
Star Father.
Red Star Father's here, yeah. And Henshin John's also here. And Red Star Father said that, the Walmart that they went into recently had 5 of them. Nice.
Yeah, that's over in I don't know that.
I didn't know I was supposed to be checking the Walmarts. I'll have to check the Walmarts now. I didn't realize they had them. Anywho's, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't think I introduced myself. I'm Jeff. I do some stuff for the studio in the background. Sometimes I work on those laser engraved first backer awards for y'all, and it's lots of fun. So I also watched the movie, and I'm glad to be on the stream with y'all.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jeff's over here. Jeff's the one that I think was the hardest convert of Matt's Monster Mondays. I mean, obviously you, Sarah and Lori also like went down the rabbit hole hard, but Jeff's the one over here like being it seems like, you know, I remembered hearing tales from Sarah early on of like Jeff like pack bonding with this genre in a way I don't think any of us expected.
This motherfucker today got all pedantic on me about, I showed him this dragon, dinosaur, whatever, onesie, you know, like the pajamas. And the person who made it labeled it Godzilla. And he's like, well, actually, it's not Godzilla. I was like, thank you for sucking all the fun out of all of it. I don't remember. It was the Rugrats guy, right?
It was clearly a Reptar. Come on.
Reptar. Yeah.
But
I mean, it's fine.
But I was like, just why do you have to take my fun from me?
Why are you like this?
Fun sucker.
I get it though. I've definitely been the pedantic pain in the ass friend more than a few times in this friggin' genre. But it's exciting. It's exciting to be here to talk about this movie. I kept saying to everybody, I was very fortunate. I got to go see it with like a group of almost 10 people. And when we were like, I remembered thinking leading up to it, like, I just want to see this movie. Like, you go from phases from like being excited to like, I want this to be over. I want to see it and I want to move on with my life. You know, like.
Okay, let's take. So, do you want to like give us your first impressions on it? Opening thoughts, or was that your opening thoughts?
Jesus. Well, I mean, a little bit. Like a large part of that kind of gets exacerbated by the fact that spoilers just start popping up, especially when the movie premieres in other countries, and those countries, like, even a few hours before America get it. Like, I was seeing stuff from theaters in Thailand and China and whatnot, and I'm just like, all right, well, now I know how that resolves, or now I know what happens there. But I mean, I already had a pretty good idea of what was going to happen in the movie, because it's just my life. But
That's fair.
My initial thoughts were definitely like, if you have any sort of visceral childlike glee directed towards Godzilla, there's definitely a pretty good chance that you're gonna lock in on that. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it. It's dumb as a bag of hammers, but in a way that I like. So
yeah, I think that was one of the biggest repeated comments that I heard was, it's ridiculous and I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that makes sense. After seeing it, I agree. It was ridiculous and I loved it. Mine was along that same lines, my opening thoughts, and I thought, the tone shift from the last movie to this one, last couple of movies in the MonsterVerse to this one, kind of reminded me of the tone shift from the first two Thor movies to Thor Ragnarok. Like, it was so, like, not that this one is super funny. I mean, I guess you could make that argument.
Funny.
You could make that argument, yes. But but like, it's that drastic of a tone shift. Like, it's still obviously within that family of movies, but it's not the same at all. It's like the tone is totally different.
Jeff?
Henshin John said that the spoilers were pretty bad for this one.
Yeah. It do be like that.
And Rad Starfather said Chinese TV spots always seem to officially leak stuff, and they did with Mechagodzilla and Godzilla vs. Kong. And that sounds about right. So, okay, Jeffrey, opening thoughts.
Well, I was able to avoid most of the spoilers going into it, so I was pretty happy about that. I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't sure if it was going to be. I mean, I got the impression it wasn't going to be, just another Kong versus Godzilla fight. But yeah, I was pretty happy with it. With the fights, I was getting into the battles a lot. Yeah, I have more to share, but I think I'll wait till later when we get into the details.
For sure.
Yeah.
Kaleidoscope? Kaleido_scope? Weirdly enough, I think the most glee I've had for Godzilla was when I watched the Castle Bravo scene from Monarch.
That was the scene
okay.
where Godzilla was bowing up on the on Castle Bravo. Which I've always been a little about that name, like, because in King of the Monsters they named Castle Bravo the base after the Castle Bravo nuclear experiment, the hydrogen bomb tests, and I'm like, I don't know if we want to go in that direction, guys, because there was a lot of natives displaced, and it's really tricky making callbacks to atomic testing eras in these fun mass market action films. So I don't know. That's just whatever.
Yeah, especially when you think about like the source material, like this these Godzilla movies are great and all, but they're not the same at all to the originals. Like, they're just not. You should link that YouTube video, and everybody should watch it if they haven't already, because that was a really good explanation of the difference between the original Toho films and the MonsterVerse films that we're getting now.
I mean,
y'all are going so fast on the comments right now.
Well, it's tough, you know, because interesting. It's tough because those classic films. I mean, some people have made the argument that Godzilla did kind of stop being about nuclear testing at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that means you can't make it about that, but it's just, I do think that there's something to be said for trying to reconcile this character as a consistently changing reflection of our socio-political climate, and the fact that the main reason they keep making movies is because the movies make money. Like, it's okay to have a little cognitive dissonance there. It can be both, you know. It can be a disgusting corporate cash grab at the same time as also maybe being a little social commentary in there.
Mm-hmm. I think this one, Jeff and I both made this similar comment to how cute Godzilla looked.
Yes.
He looked like a little kitty rat curled up in a little kitty bed, didn't he? It was so cute.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Alan. Yeah, that was awesome how he just kind of curls up. If he fits, he sits inside the Coliseum and goes back to sleep.
I didn't think just the way everybody in the theater lost their damn minds. My friend Danny was just like, he do a big eep. He's so eepy, an eepy boy. This is so cute.
Oh yeah.
He killed a lot of people in Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
Just gonna like hand wave that though, aren't we?
I mean, honestly,
that in the movie.
That is one of those things that I do kind of have a note about. Like, it's one of my only major nitpicks about the film. Yes, Rebby, I have you want to see? Hold on. That's like a quarter of them. Like, there's all the rest of them.
Wow, you do have a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I got a lot of them.
I expect nothing less.
Damn right. And you saw
Ethan said he saw it twice on opening day.
Jesus.
Nice.
I'd do it.
I don't have time for that shit. I am going to see it again on Wednesday. I've got a couple of our friends who haven't seen it yet, and they're like, well, we want to see it with you. And I'm just like, fuck you, leave me alone. No, just kidding. I was very, very happy that people actually want to like share the experience, because it is fun. It's a fun time in the theater.
Where the hell? There was another comment here. Is it Lizy Keel? Said, I think it's something that cannot ever be forgotten that Godzilla was one way or another the child of the atom. He's anti-war incarnate.
I think it's very interesting, just that whole idea about what does Godzilla embody depending on the films that he's in, and just like, because I was really kind of recoiling from the idea of Godzilla being this agent of balance, quote unquote, him being like nature's protector or something. Because in a lot of the classic films, and not even the class, just throughout the Japanese series, he is more like anti-life incarnate. He's a walking cancer-inducing cloud of radioactive fallout given physical form. Like, it's just, I'm of course, you know, my whole thing is like, well, the defender of nature is either Mothra or Gamera. So but we don't have 4 hours for me to proselytize about Gamera.
Oh, that's fair. Radstar Father said, I knew the entire plot before going in. I didn't care to spoil it, as I genuinely hate Wingard's direction with the MonsterVerse. I tried to be optimistic, but it ended up being a 0 of 10. A 0?
Oh,
a 0?
Radstar.
Really?
That's a shame. I mean, you can't, you just, sometimes people are going to react certain ways. And there's just nothing to be done, you know? Like, you don't like,
we're not going to disown you because you didn't like it. But nothing. You didn't like anything about it.
I mean, you know, it comes with the territory sometimes. Some people, you know, they have they have a certain, certain way they think something should be done, or say a certain way that a certain character should be portrayed. I think I think had this, there's every possibility that maybe this had come out 10 years ago, I would have been way on the other side of it. I may have been like, well, no, this Godzilla is supposed to be a flabbity flu. Godzilla is supposed to represent so just I don't know. We don't judge. Yeah, that's not wrong. Yeah, that's not wrong.
Yeah, so there's y'all are commenting so fast here.
Yeah.
Working in a cinema, I can't help but get excited when customers are going in to watch it. Matthew A said there's apparently an explanation in the novelization that he sleeps in Rome because it reminds him of his temple. Oh, well, that's cute. I mean,
that's a cute idea.
Let's see. Henshin John said, honestly, it's only a 0 of 10 because Godzilla and Kong. Yeah, we read that one. Yeah,
there's a lot of them. Yeah.
I liked Suko being used as a weapon, and I mostly like Shimo's design. That's really it. It's my least favorite Godzilla film.
I got Suko right here.
Oh, you got him right there.
I got him right here.
Oh man, I thought he was gonna die. Like I thought that whole thing. I was like, he's gonna make this. They're throwing him around like he's a Nerf ball.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
I was shocked that I was like, that would have made the whole fight a little more poignant if somebody had died, but somebody that wasn't the good guy.
Did they say Suko's name in there somewhere? I don't
think I ever said it. I think it's
I don't think so.
Okay, thanks.
I was honestly shocked at the sheer temerity of grabbing this baby by the leg and bashing the other giant. I was cackling, and poor Caston is next to me screaming in horror. She was like not okay with it, and just like
I don't know if Jeffrey was making any noise because I was laughing too hard at that that I couldn't tell. And I think that the people behind us were pissed off.
I was like, how far are they going to take this? And then they kept taking it farther. They kept using him as a weapon. And then they chuck him.
I want to know what he's made of because he's strong. Like that's a.
I mean, he's a kaiju. That's what they do. They take a lot of punishment. I mean, yeah, Godzilla works better as a money nature reaction. Nurture side. I mean, that is definitely. I think that's the read we're at now, because I think there was a minute there between Godzilla 2014. There's like a fight going on in the comments now. Between Godzilla 2014 and Godzilla King of the Monsters, where there was this idea that like Godzilla was completely passive when it came to people. Like there was, I mean, he was definitely like just kind of stomped through and did what he needed to do. But now, I honestly, this is something I actually appreciate Wingard doing, is having Godzilla really kind of go back to being a bastard, because he's kind of a bastard, and I like that, which is so funny because I'm that kind of fan. I always need something to listen to while I'm drawing and working. So I'm listening to the audiobook version of the Godzilla Kong novelization. And I liked the last one. I liked the Godzilla versus Kong novelization. I thought they actually expanded on a lot of stuff in a way that I thought could have been made the film better. But in this one, they keep talking to different world leaders, like different senators and different like prime ministers and stuff, who ministers of defense, who keep piping into Monarch and being like, and Monarch's just like, they're so dismissive. They're just like, well, yeah, just leave Godzilla alone and he'll just do whatever. And they're just like, he destroyed a lot of our infrastructure. Like, just, I get the, hold on. Am I good? Okay. I get the impression that eventually, I think when they do the next movie, I would be surprised if like basically somebody didn't go back to whoever was still running Apex and was like, so what's this Mechagodzilla situation? Like, can we order like 500 of those? Like, like, why would you not? Why would you not do that?
That's true. Yeah. Fair. So like, okay, so before when we've done these shows, we've like gone through like a plot synopsis, but this is a 2-hour movie, so I'm not gonna do that. But like specific points in the movie that we liked. I guess Matt, we'll start with you because you're top.
Because I'm yelling a lot.
Because you're the guy.
Yes. Sorry, there's also just like there's a whole thing going on over in the comments. It's really funny. Okay. Specific things I liked. I actually personally really like Godzilla's new design. It looks like something I would do, so that's why I like it. Jared Kieversky. I'm not sorry, Jared. I'm not pronouncing your last name right, but he was the artist who was like the lead on redesigning Godzilla. He's been kind of embraced by the fandom, which is cool. I really liked the new Godzilla. I really liked Kong's whole journey. I'm glad that Kong's arc, in a lot of ways, is kind of complete. I actually really liked the characters. I thought the people actually had some really fun little moments. It was really clear that they did not want to stop the film people talking or for people having character beats. There were some, like I liked the arc with Gia, for example. I liked that little arc with her and her mom, and it was just a little boop. And then the other characters are fun, like they're like I remember them, you know. It's definitely a Godzilla versus Megalon situation where we have this very small cast, and
they were. I think that it was really nice that they were not annoying. Like there was never a point where I was like, Jesus Christ, go back to the monsters. But there were several of those moments in I think all of the movies, all the other MonsterVerse movies. I had at least one point where I was like, I don't want to see you anymore. I need a break from the people because they suck. So I mean the movies had a point where just like the lines were bad, the acting was bad, something was bad, but this one was pretty good. This one I wasn't annoyed by the characters.
Yeah. Jeff?
Jeffrey, what points did you like?
So one of my favorite parts was the when Godzilla and Kong fought that first time when Kong was trying to drag him back to Hollow Earth. I remember you mentioned a Gamera earlier, and I remember that was the first time I had ever seen Kaiju do some kind of wrestling move derivative, and I was just so pumped and mind blown by that. And then Godzilla does a front suplex on Kong in that fight, and I was just thrilled with that. That was awesome. I couldn't believe
it was very good.
Yeah, he pins him against the pyramids of Giza down there, and then picks him up and back front suplex him. You also mentioned the Godzilla design. This was the first time I noticed that this version of Godzilla, the MonsterVerse Godzilla, has gills. And I thought that was interesting, and I looked into that a little bit. Apparently, in the Toho universe, he's got pore shaped gills, but in this universe, he's got some gills right up here, very very visible ones. So I was kind of.
So they were glowing pink in this movie, so it was a lot easier to see them.
I appreciate
that's probably it.
I appreciate your magnanimity, Jeff, of saying like, "Oh yes, pore-shaped gills, totally not the holes that Nakajima needs to breathe out of." But it is funny. It's funny that they even offered that explanation, like, "Oh no, it's gills."
Yeah.
There's a couple of comments. Yes, I was gonna say that comment by Radstar
That's
Father.
I thought that too. Like when Kong pops up right next to a pyramid, and I was like, oh no, that's getting ruined. And I was like, it seems a little from going back to reality, not in the movie. Like, it seems a little insensitive, a lot insensitive. It's insensitive to be destroying the cultures of other. I mean, yes, true. We did destroy San Francisco and Boston and the other movies, but that's San Francisco and Boston. It's not a pyramid that's thousands of years
Boston.
old. I mean, and they were killing people in every single movie, so it's not about the people, it's about the culture that you're ruining. I don't know.
There's something I remembered. Everyone everyone I saw it with was a little like, oh no, not the pyramids, because I remembered seeing I saw a documentary or something. It was like a speculative documentary years ago about like what would happen if like all humans just disappeared, like just it was like a Thanos snap, basically. Like, what if everybody disappeared tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And it kind of went through like, well, eventually the buildings would crumble and because nothing would be there to maintain them, et cetera, et cetera. And the one things that they said was, well, what would be left? Like, as the eons pass, what would be the only things that would remain? And it would be stuff like the pyramids and the Great Wall of China, mm-hmm. and these giant things that are carved out of stone that are basically mountains. Like, they'd get worn down eventually, but it would take like millions of years for them to completely shift or completely change. Mm-hmm. But like, yeah, that was something else that was kind of I mean, I don't know if we're also talking about like stuff we didn't like.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get there.
Okay.
I mean, go ahead and say, yeah, if you got something on your mind, go ahead.
So the one of the things that I kept, aside from, I definitely needed I needed like a break at a certain point because I was so keyed up and really overstimulated in the film, like, because it just kind of the tension and the action just kind of keeps going. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's cool and everything, but there's a reason why we have like 3-act structures, and there's a reason why you want breaks in the action, because it does kind of slow things down just for a minute, just so everybody can have a little breathing room, mm-hmm. and maybe go to the bathroom or something. Yeah. And like, so something Cassie was complaining about, that she was like, I was really waiting for a point where I needed to go to the bathroom. But like, yeah, I was, the other thing that was, I can't kind of get past, man, I looked up the population of Rio de Janeiro after the movie, and it was like 6,299,000 or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's been cut in half at minimum. And it's a little hard to cheer for these hero monsters when that many people are definitely dead. Mm-hmm. Like, and I get it, like, it's kind of like, but it's just silly fun. And it's like, well, yeah, but also, what about the old Godzilla movies? And it's like, well, a lot of the final battles in old Godzilla movies take place outside of cities. Like, again, Godzilla versus Megalon is the one I usually keep coming back to for this. That whole final battle takes place like out on the slopes near Mount Fuji. Mm-hmm. Because I think Megalon, Jet Jaguar, like, lured Megalon out, or kept Megalon out of the city. And then, like, or you have scenes where it's like, oh, well, we've at least have a cursory scene of people evacuating, where it's like, hey, maybe an evacuation would be nice. And then, like, for example, another thing, miniatures. Because, like, when monsters are smashing miniatures and stuff, you can have a little bit more of a disconnect. Like, you can slightly disconnect it a little bit more to where it's like, well, I know that's a miniature. I'm suspending my disbelief for the sake of this film, but I'm not thinking about people being actively crushed, mm-hmm. unless that's the point, unless they're like showing that, mm-hmm. where it's like, oh no, look how horrible this is. As opposed to this, where it's like, oh, 4 monsters just popped out of the ground like daisies and just obliterated an entire major city. I feel like there should be some consequences to that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. All right, let's catch up on the comments here.
Bad day for millions.
Lizy Keel said, Matt, Frank, I adore your art, by the way.
Thank you.
Let's see. Henshin John says it says something when the movie actually made me not dislike Bernie.
Bernie's annoying in the last one.
He is. He is.
I don't
he,
care for him.
he has some bad dialogue in the last one. I actually liked the New Zealand kid. I can't remember his name in the show in the movie, but yeah,
Oh.
he was Millie Bobby Brown's buddy. I can't remember his name.
Yeah. He was in Deadpool 2.
Yes, that's the guy.
Yeah.
And my favorite movie that he was in is Hunt for the Wilder People. If you haven't seen it, you need to watch it because it's adorable and sad and also funny as hell. Like, it's just a good movie.
I like that.
Let's see. Steven said I like that one too, Jeff, but I don't remember what you said that he liked. Oh, okay.
Just had some good takes.
Maybe Gamera, or the wrestling move.
Yeah, something.
Anyway.
Yeah, the wrestling move was awesome. What was that, suplex or a body slam or something? Yeah, it was. I meant to look it up because I always forget which one's what.
So good.
Anyway, Rebby the Wolf, he said, I'm like one of the human anomalies that can muster more to say about the humans in kaiju films than they were boring or they existed. That's good. That's probably good.
There are. Yeah.
Alden asked if do you guys see any Easter eggs in the movies?
Oh yeah. A friend of mine and a something of a protege, I guess you could say a little bit. Christian Gonzalez. He has some art in the movie. He did a spray painting of Godzilla eating pizza that was on the wall of a building, I think in Rio. He did that artwork. And I didn't even know about that, and I was like, "Whoa! Congratulations, dude! That's awesome."
Cool. Yeah,
it's very cool. And there's a couple I mean, the best Easter egg is Ghidorah Stan 64. Like, that's the best one that Bernie was complaining about, especially because 1964 was the year that Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah came out. So
there you go.
Oh no, sorry. Ghidorah the three-headed monster. Sorry. Stop yelling at me.
Steven said asking world without people. And you want elaborating?
I guess it's just the basic idea of like everybody on the earth getting obliterated. I don't know.
If you just Thanos snapped, right? Like you said. Anyway, evolved doesn't really make sense to me. Skinnier and his atomic breath is pink, a color less energized and less hot than blue. Shouldn't have he started glowing white and gotten more buff?
I mean, I personally am like, if he's evolving to be
Rebby
faster,
is on your ass, Red Star.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think the idea was that he's supposed to be shedding his skin, so he's literally shedding the pounds, so he can be faster and more agile. I remembered seeing someone, I think it was Cassian actually, pointed out how there's like a pink spectrum of radiation that's actually like more powerful. Hey, Ratstar Father, if you didn't like the film, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's all right.
It's all good. Like I said, it's dumb as a bag of hammers, and that's by design.
Yeah, it was a very stupid movie, but it was very fun for me to watch. Like, it was fun to watch.
You know, you're not going to please everybody. I know people who friggin' hate Godzilla -1, that they can't stand it. And I know Japanese people who hate -1, who are like, I don't like the acting. They're like, I don't like the acting. I don't like the dialogue. I think it's cloying and it's a soap opera for dummies. And like,
okay, I get that. I can get that. But like, yeah, I mean, like nothing. They maybe like the Godzilla, or they like the special effects or something, and that's it. I mean, because you can't please everybody. 13 9/11s. Oh Jesus, it is. It really is. And I was actually.
Henshin
John said, I was surprised the Monarch wasn't trying to evacuate people. Like, I feel like they should have known, right? We should have gotten at least a few minutes before Kong just explodes out of the water or out of the sand or wherever. I don't remember who came to Rio first. I don't remember who that was.
The first ones to come out in Rio were, I think, Shimo and Scar King.
Okay.
I did like the moment where Scar King kind of sees all the people and he's just like, rah, like he's intentionally scaring people.
Yeah.
Like, I actually really liked Scar King. I thought he was kind of a fun villain, because he was also a bastard, but in like a really specific way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and sorry, I know I've been talking a lot. So if any, I have a thought about a possible theme for this film, but I can wait.
Or I can... No, yeah, you're good. You're good. I'm trying to, because y'all are commenting so fast and I love it. Thank you. But I gotta pick out which ones are which ones are more likely to continue the conversation here, because y'all are having your own conversation on the side too, so I gotta figure out which ones are what.
Well, I guess I can. Jeff, did you have a point you wanted to make?
Yeah, one thing I kind of wanted to bring up was in this film, Godzilla was planning to do that final battle this whole time, and you don't know it till midway, and then he comes up with that idea to go down to the South Pole, and I can't remember the name of the kaiju down there.
Tiamat.
What was it again?
Tiamat.
He took him out and took his place, and then just gained the same energy that Tiamat was gaining. And then one time when the time came, he busted out of the glaciers just like Tiamat did, and then proceeded with his plan. I thought it was kind of interesting how there was a lot of thought behind there was thoughts going through Godzilla's head, and planning going through his head to what was going to be coming next.
Yeah, it was just the whole like going from it was. I really appreciated that he stopped to eat a nuclear power plant.
Yes,
which that whole region of France is now without power, and just absorbs all the energy. And I liked that. I liked that aspect. Visually seeing it, because the only other time I think we'd seen it in the older movies, in the Japanese films, was in Return of Godzilla, where he attacks a power plant and he pulls the whole reactor out and he absorbs the energy just by holding it, and it just like absorbs into his back plates. But seeing him physically like sucking it in through his mouth with the Cherenkov radiation just funneling into his mouth, that was just visually very cool.
Mm-hmm.
That does actually, what Jeff said does segue into what I was thinking about, which is a possible little bit of a theme, because Godzilla is still kind of a bastard, and it kind of hurts the theme I was going for. But these movies, the video you referenced earlier, Sarah, the Japanese Godzilla movies are about life. American Godzilla movies are about Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a point about how the American movies will like touch on things, but they don't really have like a cohesive through line, because that's not what they're about.
Mm-hmm.
They're about spectacle. They're about cool stuff happening. And that's fine. You know, it's a great way to kill 2 hours, but I noticed that there was a slight theme in this film, possibly about positive masculinity. Not even a theme, but just little blips on the radar, little blips on the heart monitor. Because you have Kong, who can be a bastard in his own right, and he'll swing a baby at you, but he'll give the baby like sushi afterwards. Which is actually, I think,
I remember that scene. Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, he did that.
He did do that. And then you have this little, with the human characters, you have this one chief of security who's really prickly and really aggressive, and he tries to basically like exert dominance over the group, and he's so caught up in that he gets eaten by a tree. And so
that's right.
Yeah. And meanwhile, you have Bernie and Trapper, who like, they're having conversations about colonialism. They're talking about like, oh, we got to hug it out, man. We got to hug it out. We got to feel your emotions. And I'm just like, they're saying things like, I'm going to kiss you full on the mouth. Like, not to be anything, but it's just funny. It's like, oh man, did positive masculinity save the day? Because the Scar King is kind of this asshole, and he abuses everybody. And he has been like, he has a whole harem of female apes that all have little Sukos. There's like a blink and you miss it scene with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh man, are we doing a theme? And then Godzilla comes in, murders a woman, takes her house, and then takes all of her solar radiation. So I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. There was a lot of positive masculinity in there. Now that you mention it, that was a pretty sweet scene with Kong and Zuko, and he didn't how Zuko was very reluctant to go over to it was a nice scene, a heartwarming scene.
Well, he didn't know what to do with being offered food. He basically probably only ever had to steal food, so he's probably thinking like, if I try to take this food, he's gonna hit me like Scar King does. I want to know like a whole backstory, about Scar King, because I have this whole theory that there's some other civilization in the Hollow Earth that tried to make Scar King into a weapon and like abused him and treated him like shit, and that's why he is the way he is.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I mean, because apes do often, certain species of apes do dominate through aggression, but that specific level of aggression and that specific level of cruelty is reserved for something that's probably been abused by people. Like they had to learn that. So, anyway.
Red Star Father said, I didn't remember the guy's name, but yeah. Only human character. There was the guy driving the heave, right?
Yes.
When they were going to a Hollow Earth, they made him an asshole for no reason right before the tree mimic.
R.I.P. King.
And I didn't understand that because he seemed like he was perfectly reasonable person, and then when the stress got too much, he turned into this really like he was a dick, and they needed somebody that we kind of got close to kill. I guess I don't know.
I mean, I thought it was fine. I thought it was just it was perfectly fine as a vehicle to show how dangerous the Hollow Earth is when you're just out exposed. Hey, it's Maddox.
Hello. Hey everyone. So I misunderstood the time zone, and I thought this was 3 hours later than it's supposed to be.
No!
Oh shit!
I apologize. It's my
Dang
fault.
it.
I should have read more closely. But yeah, sorry I missed the beginning of this.
Oh hey, you're here now. So
Yeah, you made it.
We were talking about what our first thoughts were, what some of our favorite scenes were. Starting to talk about some of the stuff we didn't like. But yeah, we were just talking. Well, positive masculinity and killing characters, and so yeah. I mean, you want to give us your take on the show since you're here now?
Yeah, so the way all my friends are super anxious to hear what I thought about this Godzilla movie, because I was like a huge fan of the one that just came out, obviously, which most people were, I think, won an Oscar, amazing. But the way I describe this to people is it's bonkers. My jaw dropped the entire time I was watching this movie. I'm like, what is going on? It's so intense. I feel like somebody ate 2 boxes of Captain Crunch and then wrote the script like while on a high-speed chase. It was so intense at so many points in the movie.
That's a recurring theme, is people are saying it was so intense.
It really was. There was so much going on. It was just like candy being shot right into your veins. And I enjoyed it. I know, like one of my friends texted me and she's like, it's so bad, don't go see it. And I was like bracing for how awful it was going to be. But I really enjoyed it. I had a good time.
Yeah.
I think the reality is there are some people who are just not really here for like constant over the top monster action and basically stuff being thrown at the wall, like, which is fine. Like I said, Kasten loved -1. Like she thought it was like one of the best movies she's ever seen. She keeps talking about how great it is. She saw this and she was like, I thought that was a piece of shit. And that's fine, she's not
piece of shit, but it was an enjoyable piece of shit.
Like I said, dumb as a bag of hammers.
I think that knowing what I do know about Kasten, that I'm not super surprised that she didn't enjoy it. I mean, they were swinging a baby monkey around. Come on, they were using him as a literal weapon, and like that's not something I can imagine Kasten enjoying.
No,
I was laughing so hard in the theater when Kong grabbed the kid and started whapping people with him, and I wanted to tell my friends about this moment in the movie, and she sent me a it's already a GIF. It's already going viral. People are sending it everywhere. Yeah, it's already becoming a meme, but it is so over the top. It's so violent that I wasn't expecting it. I would describe this Godzilla movie as the Fast and the Furious of the Godzilla franchise.
that's a good comparison. I like that.
Yeah. It's like it's fun. It's kind of dumb at points. But although you know what I noticed when I saw this with a bunch of friends who aren't as big of a Godzilla fan, near the end of the movie they were getting a little choked up. Like you really do care about some of the characters in this. The mother-daughter dynamic was really interesting. It was interesting that they kept her. They did the ASL thing the entire movie. I thought was really interesting. One thing what I thought was really funny, and someone pointed this out recently about the Japanese versus the American Godzilla movies, is like how much more destruction there is in the American ones. So there's a scene in Egypt where Godzilla and Kong have their first big head-to-head, and literally every pyramid was leveled.
Yeah.
And then you go down to Middle Earth, and they're just so much reverence. Oh, this ancient text. Let's take a look at this. And meanwhile, boom, leveling everything on Earth, like up above.
Yeah, that is something I was thinking about, like that idea of like, oh man, you have to protect. We saved Hollow Earth, we saved the Iwi, we saved whatever, and it's like, man, Rio just kind of got deleted, and the pyramids, like. Well, I mean, it's like I think somebody I know made a comparison of like how, well, in the older Godzilla movies, they're always destroying, Himeji Castle or Nagoya Castle, these super old ancient castles and stuff. And I have to remind them, those castles are made out of wood because they're in a country that is constantly being shaken up by earthquakes. So, and each of them has been rebuilt like 3 or 4 times. Like they rebuild stuff really fast there. I don't know if we can rebuild the pyramids, guys. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
Gojimon 2000 says, hello everyone, I'm seeing Godzilla and Kong tomorrow, and you're here, where we're gonna spoil shit.
I mean, they've probably been spoiled to hell and back by now.
That's fair.
Let's be clear.
Oh yeah.
PD Jam said,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, Godzilla not using his atomic breath to move around during zero gravity battle and not using the drop kick in the city with Kong holding Scar King was a missed opportunity. You know what? I didn't think about it, but now I agree. I have to agree. So it takes him a time to charge up the atomic breath, even with the supercharged Tiamat atomic breath. So.
I mean, he probably knew that if he used his atomic breath in the Hollow Earth, he was gonna blow up Mothra's home.
That's fair.
And she would not have.
Which, by the way, we've barely mentioned Mothra, and she was in this movie.
Yeah.
Where the hell was all her scenes? I'm kind of pissed that she wasn't more important in there. But she didn't do a lot of fighting. She just did a lot of saving.
Yeah, she was a little more focused on keeping people safe.
Yeah.
I will say this: the Mothra design in this one, was very articulated, and I really enjoyed that. Like Mothra, I really like seeing her legs come down and kind of almost like a flying crane, and just like pick things up wherever. Mothra seemed very flexible and very maneuverable, very versatile. A lot of dexterity in this one. I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we got like 3 or 4 people in the comments saying my favorite part was that Mothra didn't die.
Yes,
I agree.
Yeah,
Matt kept telling us before with all the kaiju movies he had us watching that Mothra doesn't really die that much, and then like every single movie he's shown us so far, she dies.
Okay, just hang on, because it wasn't until pretty late into the Godzilla cycle that this idea of her dying over and over again started becoming like a trope. Because in the original cycle of films, she only dies once, and she's in like 4 or 5 movies. And then I'm trying to remember, and then it wasn't until like the 2000s they started doing this thing of her dying every time she shows up. Although I will say, like, I like this version of Mothra. My favorite version is always going to be the one from Tokyo SOS from 2003, which is the most elaborate animatronic Mothra they ever made, where all of her body was moving. She had like her antennae moved, her mouth moved, her little legs moved, and she has this super like. But I mean, I like this version of Mothra just fine. I just I think I'm always going to prefer a practical Mothra. But that's my bias.
Rebby the Wolf, he said, honestly, my favorite thing about this and Godzilla vs. Kong is the confidence, the sheer confidence in being a complete fantasy film with awesome concepts like the Hollow Earth and the crazy technology. Yes, that was definitely definitely something I noticed they really ramped up with the last two films. Yeah.
That's where the last film kind of lost me, was when they went into the Hollow Earth and the Mecha. I wasn't a big fan of the Mecha Godzilla design. I thought it was too Michael Bay Transformers. I liked the old, but I'm biased. I like the old Transformers design too. I think it's nice, clean, and it's just it's fun to look at. Whereas too many gears and too much detail kind of gets lost on me. It just kind of looks like a blur. But I really like the monster design. And can we just talk about how amazing every graphic, like special effects shot was in this movie? Holy cow! Like when Kong got frost on his arm, I was like staring at that thing like, wow, it looks so real. It looks so good. Even throwaway shots where you just see like some background monster attacking, just the amount of detail they put into this. The lighting was on point. Everything was on point. And I was thinking back to the old Star Wars reboots when George Lucas went back and added Jabba the Hutt in some of the scenes, how bad the lighting looks in those movies. And that wasn't even that long ago. That was like, what, 15, 20 years ago, maybe?
It was 24 years ago, man. Things have changed a little bit since then. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. It just feels like, in our lifetime, like the special effects have come so far. And I was thinking, if I watched this as a kid, my mind would have been blown. But the special effects, I wouldn't understand, like, is this reality? Like, what am I watching here? It was so good. I really like the special effects. But and last time we talked, I was like trashing Kong a lot. And this movie kind of won me over. I'm like a Kong fan again. I like Kong. He was so aggressive, so, I don't know, just like really in your face in this one.
There's a power fantasy that I like that comes with Kong that makes him like, I think he's a little more instantly relatable as like a person, to an ape. And I think that kind of makes him really fun, especially in this one. He's really human in this one. Like, he has little human movements and stuff that he does that I'm like, apes don't do that.
I was thinking that too. Yeah.
Like he even does it like the sup at one point, and it's like, all right, I guess we just did that.
When he first encountered Godzilla and he's like, stop, and it's like, no, apes don't do that. We're the only apes that do that.
The one that there was one, oh yeah, when he gets cornered. He's cornered by the bad monkeys, by the bad apes, and he literally puts up his dukes like Rocky style, and I'm like, when did he learn rope-a-dope? When did he like?
Yeah, I was waiting for him to go full Matrix and just be like, what is this?
It wasn't funny.
I mean, if you have Godzilla doing kung fu stances and moves from the old 70s, I think maybe every monster should have a secondary like street fighting style.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff pointed out Godzilla doing the suplex at one point. I'm just like,
oh my god,
didn't have to do that. I will say, Radstar Father has a comment about how I actually do echo a little bit. I actually didn't think the effects were as good this time. I thought there was cool stuff in it, but I felt like the effects from the last one, I feel like were a little more refined in the previous one. Whereas this one, I felt a little more. It felt a little more slapdash, a little more like just throwing stuff at the wall, which I also think it's a bit of a fallacy to complain about effects in a Godzilla movie because of like the 70 years prior, and like I have a lot of opinions about special effects though. Like I'm kind of like, look, if you're going for a certain aesthetic, then just lean into it. Like, you know, if your aesthetic is rubber suits and miniatures, then Godspeed.
Yeah, that's interesting. I that's the first kind of critical comment I read about the special effects. I don't know. Maybe I just have my maybe I was just really ready to be wowed by the special effects. The lighting was crazy though. It was a little bit like Batman Returns, or what was the third Batman?
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, Batman and Robin. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
No, I mean there's nothing wrong with that. Like you see, the thing is like you probably don't sit around thinking about special effects. Like, you know, you probably like most people watch a movie, say that was cool or I didn't like that, and then you move on with your life,
right?
And do other things.
Red Star Father just said you have over an hour, I believe, with pure CGI. I just feel so bad for those VFX artists with what they got. It's not their fault, but man, it really doesn't look good in most places.
It was pretty nuts. I was watching the credits. I stayed to watch all the credits, and there were so many VFX studios involved. Like there's VFX in at least like 4 or 5 different countries and 4 or 5 different studios. So I just thought about the logistical. I mean, just there's over 1,000 people credited in this movie, and I was thinking about just the logistics of putting this thing together and having the communication to even make a cohesive movie with that many moving parts, with that many people, that many opinions, meetings, notes, drafts, and then just getting it all done is just a gargantuan task. I mean, the other titan is just the workload. Am I right, boys? Yeah, and also, I will say one other thing though about the credits. I was super burnt that there was no preview monster at the end.
Yeah,
I think that's why we waited for the credits too. And I was like, come on, they could tell us right. Like we should have asked one of the ushers at the beginning. Like, is there a post-credit scene in this? Oh, no.
I think the closest thing was you hear a loud Mothra scream at the very end, and I mean, and I'm just like, Mothra solo movie, which I mean, personally, what I think should happen is I think Japan needs to make like some other stuff. Like I want to see post -1 stuff. Like that's where I want things to go personally, but I want them to, well, okay. There's been a lot of hay made about -1 only having like a budget of $10 million or whatever. That's not like aspirational, guys. Like it means that a lot of people were working a lot of late nights for not a lot of money. And they're just that good. That's why -1 looks as good as it does, just because Yamazaki and his team are just that good at it. They're just a tightly wound, tightly oiled machine. I would like to see a little more money be put towards some Japanese productions, and I want to see some other directors take a crack at some other monsters, like we did back in the 50s and 60s, where my friend Danny and I are currently watching all of the Godzilla movies and all the relevant Toho films that we have, time for. And it really is like each film is like, it's not just Godzilla versus blank. It's, okay, here's Rodan, and this is a movie about a community in the mountains that slowly falls apart. It's like a Jaws style horror film that then escalates into fucking Independence Day by the end of it. Like it's like escalation, the film. So I want to see, I feel like we've seen as far as we can take it at the moment, like with Godzilla X Kong. I want to see things be pulled back a little bit. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a little bit more Godzilla back to the roots. I mean, a little bit more like Shin. I like Shin Godzilla a lot, and that is still my go-to recommendation for most people, depending on their sensibilities. I think that will be the one that gets them, or the newest one. I think converted a lot of people too. A lot of people who were not expecting to see art in the in the previous Godzilla movie.
Uber Mr. Crazy Man said that's easier said than done. Toho can't often afford to take such a risk, and not to mention studios are scared to go in such territory unless it makes them money.
That's not wrong, but remember, there was a period of time where Toho was ready to completely bury Godzilla. After 2004, they did Godzilla Final Wars, and while I do have a soft spot for that movie because of what it is, it really did not make a lot of money for them. And at that point, the audience in Japan had been oversaturated. And according to an interview with, I think it was Shogo Tomiyama, who was a producer there for a long time, he was like, oh no, Toho was ready to completely bury Godzilla. Like, just not even, just maybe occasionally merchandise him and never make another movie. And it wasn't until someone said, let's make Godzilla tour. Well, really, like, it wasn't Toho that pushed forward on like the MonsterVerse stuff. I don't know if anybody in here knows the story, but so Yoshimitsu Banno was the director of Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, widely regarded as one of the weirdest and kind of stupidest Godzilla movies, even though, again, and it's got some interesting thematic stuff going on. Godzilla movie. Sorry, I think I froze up there. He wanted to make another Godzilla movie. So once Toho was done making movies in 2004, he came back and said, "Hey, I want to get the license. I want to license the character and make like an IMAX feature or something." And they were like, "Sure, whatever, man." And he took it and he kind of shopped it around for a while. And it wasn't until he met producers in Hollywood who were like, it took him like another 10 years or like 7 or 8 years before somebody in Hollywood was like, oh, Godzilla, like we could probably make like a cool modern new Godzilla movie. And it wasn't until after that movie came out that Toho was like, oh, I guess there's a market here. And so, like, it's kind of a never say never thing, you know? Like, it's complicated, but I don't know. I'm at this point, I thought I'd be fucking dead in a ditch somewhere before I saw Godzilla get an Oscar.
Yeah.
What timeline is this?
I was so happy when I was walking down the Hollywood's Walk of Fame not too long ago. I was surprised and I didn't realize, but Godzilla has a star on the Walk of Fame. Very, very deserved.
I didn't know that.
That was relatively recent too, wasn't it?
That was in 2004.
Oh, okay.
I took a picture next to this. The first time I ever got to take a picture next to that star on the Walk of Fame, I was in full vinyl drag and had been running down the street with a couple of half-clad, very large, very beautiful gay men leading me to it because they were like, it's over here, it's over here. It's a long story. Anyway.
The cement imprint was a disaster, though. The city was leveled.
Yeah.
I want to mention something about the Mothra. Like we're talking about like a potential Mothra standalone spinoff. I'm sure you guys have all seen it, but if you haven't in the chat or if you're listening, definitely make a point to see the Rebirth of Mothra series. Like the
fun.
There's so much fun. It's such a fun. It's like it's like more like a kids movie, but it's very well done. The special effects are still in that late. I think was it 90s? Yeah, late 90s era where you're just transitioning from old school Ghostbusters cell shaded type of like on the screen special effects with lightning, that glowing, that cool Ghostbusters style glowing special effects, and transitioning into CGI. And it's just that sweet moment, just for that tiny little moment in time when they were kind of married together, and the special effects look really unique in that movie, and it's a lot of fun to watch. A really good series.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite Mothra toys is from that trilogy.
Oh,
it has like translucent wings, and it actually like flaps.
Oh, that is so cool.
And I have an autograph on the wing. It's kind of hard to see, but the autograph is by the character designer who designed that Mothra for those movies. Yeah, I picked it up at G-Fest last year. It's one of my favorites.
That's cool. Awesome.
Hideo Okamoto, that's his name.
Bert Juarez said, I would really love to see Del Toro and Bong Joon-ho take a crack at it. Maybe the MonsterVerse won't fit their style, but maybe taking a page out of DC, doing the DCU and movies like The Batman and Joker. I think Del Toro would probably make a really fucking cool kaiju movie. I don't know.
I mean, he did. It's called Pacific Rim.
I mean, yeah, but like, you know.
I get what you mean.
I mean, seeing him do Godzilla specifically, or you know, Mothra, like he would do Mothra justice.
Yeah, I think he would do really. I actually remember when after Barbie came out, I was just like, get Greta Gerwig to do a Mothra movie.
I would watch that too.
So many people for this. So if you didn't grow up watching any kind of monster movies or kaiju, and you don't understand this style of film, it seems like it's a harder thing to try to get people in the door just to see what this type of movie is all about, because they might just write it off as like, I don't know what people think, because there's so many if I go out on a date or something and I mention to a girl that I'm really into Godzilla, she's like, I don't understand. What are you saying? What are these words? I don't understand the movie. I don't understand the concept. Like, what is it? Just some like dumb sci-fi thing? I'm like, no, you got to watch it. You got to understand. And I'll start to explain like the subtext and the the things going on behind the scene, and just like the power dynamic and how Americans are portrayed in different in certain movies, and how it's kind of a reflection of the culture of our times. Like the 1991 Godzilla versus Ghidorah was an insane commentary on just the international dynamics of the countries at the time, and it almost didn't come to the United States because there was so much tension between the countries at the time, and also the criticism of China. It's really interesting if you know the history of China and Japan, especially going back to World War II. They throw little digs at each other in these movies, and it's absolutely fascinating to see.
I love this. I love that, Red Star. Love that for you, Red Star Father. Like, hell yeah, lean into it.
To assume that at least every 50 people that you know that you meet would be excited about you mentioning that you're into Godzilla. I mean, at least.
It's different nowadays because, I think that nerd culture is a lot more ubiquitous, and it's more accessible in a lot of ways than it's ever been. And honestly, like, friggin' whatever, it's more about going out with somebody, and, you don't want to like scare them off, obviously, but I think it's hard to not want to lead with something that's like a core part of your personality. Just like, I literally had gone out with somebody for a while who then later was like, yeah, had I known about the Godzilla stuff beforehand, I think I would have given me some pause. And I'm like, you know what? I'm glad we're being honest.
As you close your apartment door, no need to go into that.
Yeah, no, we're done with that here.
Let's go to a coffee shop instead. You know what? Let's change of plans. I have a question actually for the table. I wasn't sure what the monster was at the beginning. I thought it was Kumonga, but it's a little bit different, the design.
It's Scylla.
Okay, it's not Kumonga. All right.
No. Legendary made a bunch of original monsters because they didn't want to pay for licensing. and so that was Scylla or Scylla.
Skyla? I don't know how the hell they pronounce that.
I think it's Scylla. It's with an SC, but I think it's like, anyway. And that one is from Godzilla King of the Monsters. Ghidorah called all the monsters out of their hidey holes, and Scylla was one of the monsters that popped out. Yeah. I was a little bummed at like two of these original monsters from the Legendary universe, the Legendary MonsterVerse, have been brutally murdered in this movie, and it was Scylla and Tiamat, who were both kind of fan favorites, and not anymore, I guess.
Tiamat's very cool. I could see Tiamat as a tattoo design. Someone could get that as a really sick tattoo. Just a really cool looking serpent. There is no way they can't bring it back. I mean, it's got to be like some kind of Hydra arc or something like that. If they made another Hydra style Ghidorah, that's prime for that kind of monster. And even the one in Middle Earth too, like the just throwaway monster that they just ate.
Oh yeah, the giant like sea snake.
Yeah, which is
water snake.
Really cool.
Yeah, I was noticing. I had a little bit of cognitive dissonance at a certain point where I was like, if the Hollow Earth is just filled with monsters, it kind of makes the monsters a little less special. Like, what makes Kong so special now, other than that he's just a little bit bigger? Yeah, we still technically have Behemoth, kind of.
I don't remember how to say it. Is it Methuselah? Methuselah. Okay. What were the okay? So what was his name? Trapper, the kaiju vet.
Yeah, I liked him.
Yeah,
it's fun.
It made me think about the paleo veterinarian from the Jurassic World films, like paleo veterinarian. Like, what do you even call a kaiju veterinarian? But anyway, yeah, he had that. He had all that knowledge about all the monsters that they were encountering as they were entering Hollow Earth, and then he was the one that had that idea to go lure the electrical. I forget what they were called, but the electrical bird things that came in and distracted Scar King and like, you know, when they were trying to unfreeze the pyramids that were gonna make this is a super fucking weird movie to explain.
Yeah, because then when the pyramids touch, they're gonna alter the gravity, and it's like, what? My brain is broken.
It gave us a good reason to have zero gravity monster fights, and that was nice.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah,
that was fine with that. That's when I kind of like took a step back, and I'm like, what am I watching? This is crazy. Yeah. There's like gorillas fighting on flying rocks. There's crystals flying around everywhere. There are these pterodactyls that are electrocuting everything. Godzilla's somehow involved. Mothra's flying around. Plus, there's the A, B, and C story of the characters, the human characters. Plus, there's the thing going on with the tribe. There was so much going on.
There was a lot, yeah. Trapper was one of those characters that, like, if I like on paper, I should have been annoyed by that guy, but he was just like, I think it was the actor just doing, you know, just acting the shit out of his role there, because he was really fun to watch. I really liked that character.
You know, Sarah, I'm 100% with you. That's exactly how I felt. I feel like I should have hated this movie, and I feel like I should have been annoyed by most of the things in it, but for some weird way, it kind of worked for me. It's similar to a Fast and the Furious movie. Like, I went in expecting to hate it, thinking it was going to be just some corny whatever, and then it was just a lot of fun to watch. It really is. It's just fun. It's not high art. I don't think it's not like.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, it's like -1, but you know, it was a fun ride. I still enjoyed it. It's not it's not something I would recommend to people to get into the series.
No.
Oh no, yeah, for sure.
No.
Like the first half hour of the movie, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? What is this? And then I was like, I got on board, and then I was like, you know what? This is fun. It's just fun to watch. It doesn't need to make sense. It's fun.
I tell you what, when Godzilla, the opening shot of him like barfing down Scylla's throat, I was just all in. I was yelling in the theater. I started to clap. Everyone started cheering. It was just a good moment. I'm probably going to see it again. I have another friend who's just a huge Godzilla fan. And we bonded over it one day when we both realized we were Godzilla fans, because we both unlocked our phones and we had the same wallpaper. The same Godzilla wallpaper. It was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm going to go see it again.
It wasn't something that Matt made?
Probably not.
No, although we did a Godzilla podcast together called Godzilla versus Podcast Zero. It kind of referenced it to the Monster Zero movie, which is our favorite. And we did cover one of your early graphic novels, Matt, along way before we'd even talked. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, or one of the projects you worked on. Yeah,
cool. I think that's very cool. As a little bit of a self-promotional thing, I do have a new short story I did for the Godzilla 70th anniversary anthology comic that's coming out. I think it comes out in May. Like late May. I did a short story for that. It's only 10 pages. I mean, there's a bunch of really cool creators working on it, and I did the whole thing with markers and inks, no digital colors, all practical. So
amazing. And if you guys don't already follow, you know, this is gonna sound like I'm just blowing sunshine up your ass, but if you don't follow Matt currently, like, you're doing yourself a disservice, because he posts so much fun art all the time, and I'm like, how does this guy do how does he have time to sleep? He's
I don't. I'm just kidding. Well, there's an advantage to one, it being my full-time job. Like, that's just what I do all the time. Yeah. And two, like, casting keeps me from dying. Like, having somebody actually handles their schedule. And I have a dry erase board that she made for me. Like, she even separated out all the little tiers and everything. It even has like a rank list of like what number of importance is this? Do you need to get this one done faster than the other ones? So
nice.
Yeah, but thank you. That's very kind of you. There's other stuff coming this year that I can't talk about, but yeah. Do we want to catch up on any comments?
So there was one that was, somebody said something and towards the, about, I think it was
like 5 pages ago.
Yeah, it's so many. You guys are kicking my ass with all these comments. Which is a good thing. I'm okay with it. It was somebody, I think it was Radstar, said something about how Mothra wasn't in the oh, here we go. Mothra was written into the script, taken out during production, replaced with Phosphora. Mm-hmm. And you can still see an engraving in the Iwi Temple, and then they hastily added Mothra back in, which I did not know.
Yeah, there was a little bit of conjecture about that, but yeah, they weren't sure if Mothra was going to... Radstar. They weren't sure if Mothra, they were going to have the rights to use Mothra.
Okay.
So they did briefly switch her out for another monster that's functionally the same. That's one of the reasons why you never see anybody say Mothra's name in the movie. It's always 80 Yard. I mean, a lot of the movie is 80 Yard, but yeah, because you got to write around that stuff sometimes, especially with like copyright being because every monster has a separate copyright fee for films like this, and they're very expensive. So like at the comics, I think we can get away with it because it's just comics. Like, who cares? But with the movies, I think they try to get Toho tries to get that bread.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I had no idea that was such a concern, such an issue with making these movies. I just looked it up, and there is, all this fan theory about Phosphora being the original monster and was created in 20 specifically for this movie. Is that right?
Yeah, she was created for this. Because they wanted to do Mothra, but they weren't sure if they were going to be able to, and so they were like, well, let's make an original monster just to be safe. And Phosphora is like this angel horse cat thing. Like,
okay, I was gonna ask you if it was one that showed up in the Monarch series.
No,
and that definitely did not.
No,
Monarch series.
It's functionally the same as Mothra. Like, it's this angelic creature, but it's like, but you got to do Mothra. Like, it's not that I'm opposed to new monsters. I love that they've been throwing stuff at the wall and getting new monsters, but I hope that in the next one, so many people are for Rodan to be brought in. I don't know if people understand how much pain in the ass he'd be. I mean, it depends on what kind of overall deal movies they can use each monster for. Because back in the day, Godzilla alone was so expensive, a lot of companies didn't bother licensing any other monsters. That's why other Toho monsters don't appear in stuff like the animated series or in the Dark Horse or Marvel Godzilla comics. It's all original stuff. So yeah.
You guys probably already talked a little bit about this. You were just getting into some of the things you didn't like about the movie. I felt like they're kind of leaning in a little bit. Like the veterinarian guy was a little bit like Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxies. A lot of the vapor kind of old school synth wave type vibe. Even as the ship opens up, you got the hot pink lights, and it seems kind of like that's the whole branding of this movie. And it is a little bit of a departure. It does feel like it's kind of trendy to make that kind of movie. I think we're going to look at this movie like 10, 15 years from now, look back and be like, oh yeah, that was that revisionist period where we're kind of like bringing back 80s style. Whereas I think, Matt, maybe you were speaking to this earlier, but just having, I think Godzilla is enough. And seeing that story of humans dealing with Godzilla as a real creature, as a real threat, and kind of bringing it back to, how do we contain this monster? What are we actually going to do, rather than just having him sleep in the Coliseum in Rome? I guess that's where he sleeps now. Sure.
I mean, it's interesting. I think it depends with the MonsterVerse stuff. I think that sort of story is probably going to be relegated to stuff like the Monarch TV show, which they almost certainly are going to do a second season of. But because the MonsterVerse movies, like this is kind of the Marvel problem, where it's like stuff gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's not, I don't think it's that people don't want smaller stories. They do. It's as long as it's a good story. It's a question of justifying budgets and justifying like the studio spending money on it. Like, well, what's going to get people in the theater for this one? Well, maybe it'll have a good story. No, we're not doing that. I mean, because that's why I think with -1 and the -1 Japanese side of things, that's why I think that's what they're gonna go for. I think they're probably gonna go for smaller scale stuff. But the MonsterVerse, I don't know. Like I have a hard time thinking the next one's gonna be any less massive. But I guess we'll see.
Well, where do they go from here? It's that if you've ever done improv or you've seen improv, like there's kind of this rule where you start out, the first scene is very grounded. You're in the kitchen having a conversation with your partner. Second scene, you're escalating a little bit. You're at the president's office, right? And then the third beat, when you bring it back, you're in space. And that's kind of like the joke. You're going from kitchen to the president's office to space. Well, they're almost there already. I mean, we saw that arc play out once before in the Godzilla franchise with literally Space Godzilla. And then, which was, kind of a bust in the whole franchise, except for the design was amazing.
Love Space Godzilla. I have a big soft spot for Space Godzilla, but the movie was kind of whatever.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean.
Design is probably my favorite. I love the whole Astro, like the shoulders with the giant rocks is just so cool. But once we get there, like, how do you go bigger from this movie? There is a way to make it bigger, and they probably will. I'm calling it right now. They're going to do some space shit in the next one. It's got to be. And then they have to have a reboot because, like, where do you go from here? It's so big. It's so crazy. There's so much going on. I mean, time travel is another one potentially, but you don't have to do time travel to do a period piece, as we saw with -1.
Yeah, I think what we're probably going to get, if we're doing theories, I don't know if anybody else has any theory. Whatever.
I have no fucking idea where they're gonna go from here, so I'm just listening to y'all.
I was actually, it's funny. I was actually talking to Matt McMuscles the other day, who's he's a YouTuber. I really like his stuff a lot. He's a big Godzilla fan too. He and I were just talking, and we were kind of bouncing ideas a little bit about like what's next. Aliens, like a full-on alien invasion. I mean, that's happened a couple of times in Godzilla. But I had this thought, and it's also a good way to get a classic monster in if you wanted to do that. If they wanted to pay for one classic monster they could get a lot of mileage out of. Basically, my thought was like, for Adam Wingard's already said, like, if he does another one, he's going to focus more on Godzilla. Because everyone's kind of like, yeah, Kong's story is kind of done. And Godzilla's kind of been like a sidekick. Kind of been like a supporting character. And my thought is that the world's governments are going to get sick of Monarch. They're going to get sick of the Kaiju. They're going to get sick of the Titans. They're like, so you're telling us that we just have no control over this? Like, that's not how giant governments work, and that's not how massive global corporations work. Like, no. So what I would like to see is basically an antithesis to Monarch being made, kind of like with Apex, but with way more government funding behind it, and it kind of becomes a destroy all monsters, destroy all Titans scenario. They make their own, like I was thinking, like, they can make like a pathogen or something like something microscopic that it's like almost like a monster killer virus in a way. And that slowly goes out of control and becomes either Destroyer or Hedorah, like one of these colony monsters. And Destroyer, I think, would be visually really cool for what they've been going with this universe. Although I also really like Hedorah, but he's more of a blob. Whereas Destroyer is like this demon crab monster. So
there's a very popular video game called Shadow of the Colossus, which I'm sure you guys have all played it. I really like. It's interesting, and I don't think this would work for every Godzilla movie. I think there's room for all the different tones that we hit. But in that game, you have your protagonist hunting these giant monsters all across the landscape. And when you finally get to them, they're so horrifyingly big. They're like, oh my God, how am I ever going to take this creature down? Then when you finally do, rather than the tone of the game being celebratory, it's kind of melancholy. Because you see this giant beasts falling in slow motion, and then you just take a moment to realize like how beautiful the design of this creature is, and how beautiful and rare this creature is, even in this like fantasy world, this fiction that you're watching the story fold out, and you feel compassion towards this giant monster that they have just defeated. I would almost like to see that kind of tone where like the humans have to reluctantly. They kind of did strike that a little bit in I think at the end of Shin Godzilla when they finally like froze him with like when they created enough of the chemical. But a little bit more of that tone when the humans are actually like having to try to kill or incapacitate these creatures, and then having this tone of like weird remorse almost. I don't think I've seen too much of that in these Godzilla movies, and that would be like an interesting counterbalance to like the in-your-face popcorn sugar rush that was the recent movie.
Red Star Father had a point about the future, saying, I think the MonsterVerse should have had a plan from the beginning, and Ghidorah should have been saved for the end. Nothing past King of the Monsters has felt bigger for me.
I don't personally like Red Star Father. I love you. I don't personally agree with that. I think having a plan is kind of a fallacy because it can hamper a lot of creativity. I mean, like they sort of had a plan with Marvel, with phase 1 or whatever phase it was. Those first few phases, they sort of had a plan, but they were still kind of flying by the seat of their pants. And I don't know, like I do agree. Like bringing Ghidorah kind of early was, it was kind of shooting your wad a little early, like but I don't know, like I feel like still the monsters are kind of on their own journeys and are kind of have their own arcs that we're kind of exploring, which is what we did with Kong with the last two movies. So I don't know. I think as long as it's big and it's loud and you're able to get funding for it, you're able to get Legendary to put up cash for it, then, or Warner Brothers or whoever's distributing it, then I don't know.
I just read this quote from director Adam Wingard. He said he expressed interest in making a third film featuring Godzilla and Kong, but noted, and this is from Wikipedia, it noted that it just depends on how Godzilla and Kong New Empire does and how things kind of shape out. So it does seem like it is a very, very much like a budgetary constraint. And obviously the movie's doing very well. 194 million box office weekend, and then the budget was 135, so they definitely are making money on this one.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Like it's definitely we're at the point finally where Godzilla stuff is really unquestionably making money, because the first one did okay. The 2014 one, like it did good, like it was a solid opening. Kong Skull Island surprisingly did even better, like it did, and that's because like I think you make a really good Kong product, I think people show up because they're like, oh, King Kong, I know King Kong. And then King of the Monsters kind of floundered a little bit. They spent a lot of money on that movie and it didn't do as well. And I think it was because of a couple of reasons, but it was mostly because people we don't really have the monster culture that Japan does. Like I think a lot of people were literally wondering like, well, I just saw a Godzilla movie, why do I want to see another one? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people didn't understand it. Like, well, no, there's a whole universe they're building, and like there's all these dynamics between the monsters and stuff. And so that one and also, yes, it also came out right around when Avengers Endgame was out. So I think Endgame really hurt King of the Monsters as well. But, and then I think enough time had passed to where people were like, oh, okay, Godzilla versus Kong. And it's like, okay, people have kind of been like, oh, like Godzilla's kind of snuck its way back into broader pop culture. And now it's like the perfect time.
Steven said if they go the Destroyer route, maybe show how destructive he can be by killing some of the other Titans, so Godzilla has to unite with the surviving Titans to take down the Destroyer colony. That sounds fun.
Yep,
but one of my favorite tropes in any Godzilla movie is when Godzilla humbles humans. So much fun to watch the humans like really think they got him, and then Godzilla comes out and he not only like sets them back a notch, he sets them back like an epoch. Like they're back in the Stone Ages after Godzilla's done with them. I love that. There's I forget which movie it's from, and this director, I want to see more of his style. Maybe you guys can help me out. It's the one where Godzilla is, first of all, he's just a big bully in this movie. He's no longer the hero of children. He is back to just being a bully. And he comes, there's a scene where this woman's in a hospital. You know which one I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite.
Yeah,
it's the first one that I showed Jeff and Sarah and Lori.
I remember that scene specifically.
Giant Monsters All Out Attack.
Yes.
That's my personal favorite Godzilla movie because it's just so. The director is one of my favorite directors, and he directed the Gamera trilogy as well, which are 3 of my favorite monster movies.
Okay, and everybody in the comments here.
It's like GMK, yeah. GMK. GMK mentioned.
Yes. Y'all got it.
It's also one of the -1 director's favorite Godzilla movies. Like whenever he mentions it, I'm like, oh my god, somebody fucking mentioned it.
Wait, what's the name? Which one is it? What's the name?
Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack.
Giant Monsters All Out Attack, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I want to see more of that Godzilla. Like that. It's so much fun because you have these scenes where the fishermen are running away and they're just trying to save themselves, and you really like, the cameraman's following him, like, oh, okay, this guy's gonna make it. This guy's gonna make it. No, stomp, boom, done. That guy's storyline. That guy's life is over. Move on to the next one. And Godzilla's so egregious when he's fighting these monsters too. Anguirus was in that one, right? Didn't he like drop
Baragon?
Baragon, yeah. He dropped Baragon into a helicopter. Oh, so cool. I love that.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good moments in that one. Another plug. So this year at G-Fest, in Chicago, the actress who played Baragon, the suit actress, is going to be there. She's the one in the video that everybody passed around going rah in the suit. Yeah, she's going to be there.
Shusuke Kaneko, that's the director for that one, right?
Yes, Kaneko-san.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of he did a movie that I found on DVD that I had never watched until recently called Crossfire, and it's basically like a Japanese version of. It's like a Japanese version. What's the Firestarter? That Stephen King joint? It's like Firestarter, but like the Japanese version of that. It's like Firestarter meets X-Men meets Carrie. It's really good. Like it's surprisingly really well made. But the only way to find it is like on DVD, and you got to pay like $40 for like a secondhand DVD that somebody found in their warehouse. Like it's really good.
You said it's called Crossfire?
The Japanese title is Crossfire. The American title is Pyrokinesis. So they made it harder to spell.
I got it. Yeah, Pyrokinesis. Pyrokinesis. Came out like right before the Godzilla Giant Monsters All Out Attack.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's in that same era. I love that. I'm looking to see what other kaiju. I mean, obviously Gamera. But has he done anything?
Yes. He hasn't really done any other kaiju stuff. He did some episodes of Ultraman, I think. Mm-hmm. And mostly he just does like weird little indie stuff. Yeah. He did like a weird kung fu ninja future cop.
Danger Dolls. There's Danger Dolls.
Danger Dolls is really fun. It's really interesting.
Ike Boys.
EK Boys.
EK Boys.
yeah.
Oh my god, that fucking movie.
He
I
directed
love
that.
that movie.
I don't know if he directed. I didn't know he directed that.
He's got Gold Boy coming out. I'm just looking at his Wikipedia. He's got When Rain Falls. He's got a bunch of stuff.
He does a lot of dramas. He tends to do dramas. I really want to see him come back and do another kaiju movie or a tokusatsu movie, and I want to see him do a remake of Atragon, which was the flying super submarine with a giant drill on the end of it that's fighting an ancient civilization under the sea, and there's a giant sea dragon, and it's also has all these underlying politics about post-war Japan and imperialism and nationalism, and it's trying to reconcile that, and so I want to see him do that.
Rebby the Wolfie says opinions on the next film, letting Goji and Mothra just be cute with each other for a few minutes.
Yeah,
we didn't get they didn't really do that much at all in this film, and then we didn't really get. We got a little bit of that, a little bit of their camaraderie in King of the Monsters, but not. It'd be nice to see a little bit more of how the kaiju actually feel about each other beyond just Godzilla stomping down the ones that are trying to destroy stuff.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Oh no, Jeff, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead,
I
Jeff.
was gonna say, was it GMK where Mothra powers up Godzilla with like superpowers, and then he takes on the final boss?
That was King of the Monsters.
King of the Monsters, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
GMK was the one where Ghidorah and Mothra were on the same side, fighting Godzilla.
Okay.
And there was another one, and I don't remember which one that was,
Aragon.
where that we have seen that that Mothra dies and also gives Godzilla some kind of power up, but I don't remember what that one is either. But yeah, like King of the Monsters was definitely she definitely powered him up.
She actually
that again. That was cool.
In the Japanese version, she very, very rarely fights on Godzilla's the same side as Godzilla, and usually, the couple of times she's like she dies into like the one I mentioned earlier, Godzilla Tokyo SOS, that has my favorite Mothra, this beautiful practical effect puppet. She, she's fighting Godzilla alongside Mechagodzilla, which is also weird. And I just love this dedication to the Japanese side of things, where they're just like, well, we'll make a new Godzilla movie. Oh yeah, is Godzilla gonna like team up with someone? No, we're not doing that, because he's not really called like King of the Monsters is an American invention. In Japan, he's called Hakaishin, which means the god of destruction. Yeah. Like he's a physical embodiment of the bomb still. So
yeah, it's such a stark contrast of tone when you watch -1 versus like any American Godzilla. Like Godzilla,
oh my gosh,
is treated like this heavy. The gravity of Godzilla's presence is like, this is a nuclear force, and it's going to level our city. And you can see on their faces, the actors in the scene. I don't even know how much of it is acting. It is a horrifying thing to contend with nuclear warfare. And Godzilla representing that in a very real way with the gravity of the situation, it's just such a tonal shift versus America. Like, oh, he just like stomped on every single pyramid.
Yeah.
Or he leveled Paris, and it's like, all right, next shot, let's see what else he's gonna level.
Yeah. He didn't, and this is the first one in the MonsterVerse where he's destroying landmarks, right? Like they destroyed pyramids and stepped on the Colosseum. Okay, he didn't destroy the Colosseum, but he did fuck it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's his giant cat bed now. Like it's not. Yeah, there are a couple of. He did destroy the Golden Gate Bridge in the first one.
Oh, that's right. But that was more like. Well, no,
that
that was sort of a similar situation, wasn't it? Yeah, it was.
Didn't he also destroy like Champs-Élysées in one of the movies? Like I remember that being destroyed. It might have been one of the Godzilla knockoffs around that era, like the Hydra movie, where the like even a drop of the creature like recreates it. I might be thinking of that one, but there was a France.
Are you thinking about is this an older film?
It's an older film, yeah.
Oh, you're thinking about Reptilicus.
Yeah, Reptilicus, that's the one.
Which is in Denmark, the only Danish kaiju movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
But it's fun though. It's really fun.
I remember liking it a lot when I was a kid and being horrified at the concept of like a Hydra. Anytime you cut its head, you're gonna get another one. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Bert said an idea they can go with is introducing different guardian monsters.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
that'd be cool. If they could maybe get Gamera in there.
No.
I mean, it's probably never gonna happen. Like
I
don't see it happening. But
I don't want Gamera in the same universe as Godzilla. I want him to be his own thing, because that's just personal opinion. I think that when you bring Gamera in, it becomes redundant. Because
that's fair.
In the MonsterVerse, he's functionally the same as Gamera was in the Gamera trilogy.
Well, then maybe Godzilla needs to go evil in the next MonsterVerse movie so that somebody has to stop him. And then maybe Gamera?
That's one way to do it.
Come on, giant rocket turtle.
That would be probably the only way I would see it. Like, I don't want to see him team up. I want him to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, so my favorite Godzilla movie still probably, in spite of all these like amazing movies we've seen, is still Godzilla vs. Monster Zero or Invasion of Astro Monster. I just love almost everything about that movie. The aesthetic, the storytelling, the aliens are so smug, but also like that old school 60s aesthetic of like what they think like aliens are going to look like. Yes, bring that back. I would like to see another movie with 60s style aliens who are just smug and arrogant and coming in and just like talking down to humans and then stealing Godzilla for their own purposes, tricking humans again because we're so dumb, and then like bringing Ghidorah back and like I would love to see a retelling of that story or maybe like an expansion of that one, because that 60s style alien has just not been topped, and they only brought it back once. I think in the 2000 Godzilla, it was at Final Wars. I think they did bring it back in just for a bit.
Yeah, in Final Wars they brought the Exilians back, and they're very like they're old. They look like Europunk, like they're going to a club in Berlin or something. Like they're all wearing like vinyl cloaks and dusters, and it's very odd that they went in that direction. But I mean, there have been a couple of aliens throughout the Godzilla franchise. Like I think that would be fun. I think it would fun to bring in some like old school Star Trek ass aliens who are just people in makeup, who are just and in like jumpsuits, and it's just like, yeah, we're aliens.
Old school Star Trek style, like kind of corny looking. You know who the Zillions were modeled after in the 2004? That was the Matrix. They were all Matrix style.
Yes, that's what. Yeah, Kaiju Nito just pointed that out.
Kaiju Nito just said that same thing.
Fun fact: one of the costume designers or one of the main concept artists for Godzilla Final Wars was the main concept artist for all the Metal Gear Solid games. And also like a couple of other like really famous concept artists worked on that movie, because they were going for a really different aesthetic and a really different look, which is one of that movie's charms. But yeah, I mean, recently Casson watched a movie called not a movie, it was a mini series called The Three Body Problem.
Yeah.
Which is, and they have aliens in it, but you never see them. And they appear as people. Like one of them appears as a person, and she says, one of the characters, it's the onion thief from or onion guy from Game of Thrones. He's talking to the aliens. He's like, "What do you really look like?" And she just says, "You wouldn't like it." And I love that as like a workaround. Like I bet the aliens could show up, and they would literally just be, "Oh, we kind of modeled this after your pop culture interpretation of aliens. We don't look like this at all." Like, and well, can't we see you? It's like, there's just a lot of stuff going on. You wouldn't like it.
I've heard so many great things about that. I gotta see. I heard the Chinese version of that show is like way different, and it's way longer too. They have like it's a 26 episode arc or something like that, and it's gonna be totally different. Because I just met one of the actors from the Chinese version, and he was telling me about it. I was like, I had no idea, because obviously there's a lot of sensitivity with the Cultural Revolution and how that story is told.
Yeah.
thing. So I'm sure that a lot has been changed.
That is interesting. I didn't know that. That's very cool though. I definitely look. I didn't know anything about the production of it. It seemed like it was possibly made by somebody who was not American or was not had a very unique perspective that we don't tend to get here in the States. So
yeah, it's important those stories are told because we don't see them or hear them very much in the West unless you deliberately make that effort to do that. I just want to touch on one thing real quick with regards to rumors about the next Godzilla movie. I'm hearing a lot of murmuring about Jet Jaguar coming back, or there being. You don't think so, Matt? Jeff, no?
I think it's pure speculation.
I would love it. I would love it. I just learned. I just was introduced to Jet Jaguar recently. He's going through some comics made by some guy called Matt Frank, and I was introduced to him there. And I just love his expression, his kind of blank expression, and he's mysterious, and you don't know if he's going to help or not. But when he does help, he's like totally there. Yeah, that would be. I would like to see more of Jet Jaguar, like in movies. That would be cool.
I personally feel like the best new version of Jet Jaguar is the one from the anime series Godzilla Singular Point, which is really about Jet Jaguar and this he's this AI that slowly grows and learns, which is basically what happens in his original movie in Godzilla versus Megalon, of this AI that's building on, just kind of learning how to be a hero basically. And I think that if there was some way to do that, it would be fun. It would be fun. I would love to see some classic characters, some classic monsters. I love that we're getting new stuff, but I'd like to see some old stuff. And
I gotta ask a polarizing question. This is for everyone in the panel and the chat as well. How do you guys feel about Godzilla's? I mean, I want to say new, but it's been this way for years now. But the relatively new powering up mechanic of his breath, that boom, 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 boom. At first I hated it, and now I'm kind of getting used to it. But I'm still not. Oh, you got it, Matt.
I'm trying to get it to go.
Okay.
Every time. But go ahead.
Yeah,
that performance anxiety.
It is. Well,
I swear this never happens to me. There we go.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, there we go.
God damn it, that's always so fucking cool.
That is super cool.
The coolest toy. I love them.
What do you guys think of that power up dynamic?
I think when I first heard it, I think I really enjoyed it right away because it was that plus the plus his tail lighting up. I was like, oh shit, I know what this is, and then I got you get amped up for it right before it happens.
Yeah.
So I think it's fun.
What do you guys think? What do you think, Matt, Jeff?
Jeff, you want to answer?
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay, had to pop up. I kind of really like that. Really like that power up dynamic. I didn't like. What was the insect-like monster we brought him up earlier from the beginning of the MonsterVerse?
Oh,
Skyla.
Oh, the Mudos.
Yeah. The Mudo.
The Mudo, yeah, the Mudo egg
from the original Godzilla.
It used the same sound effect, and I didn't like how they confused them. I mean, for me anyway. But yeah, I like how he charges up from his tail, and then yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I've seen it. I like it. I like the build up, and I like the aesthetic of it kind of ramping up. I don't think it makes a lot of sense that it comes from his tail, but because classically it just comes from his back because that's where his nuclear energy storage is in his body. But it is visually very cool to watch it kind of charge up like that, and it's not the first time it's something like that's been done in the animated series that's based on the 1998 movie that everybody hated. The animated series is really fun and I really like. And in that one, it's like a flash that comes up his back. It goes like that, and you can actually see it coming through his gills, and then it comes through his eyes, and then it comes out of his mouth. And I'm like, I think it's more of a great minds think alike thing, like that buildup of like the flash of energy going through his body.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I like it. I think it's cool and it's visceral.
We have comments about about his charge up. Radstar Father said the sound design in 2014 makes me go rabid. My mouth froths with glee every time he charges up. I listen to the sound effects sometimes just for fun.
I will say that I think it's cool, but I just want them to remind people that Godzilla doesn't need to charge up. I want him to also have the spontaneous breath because his breath has saved his ass so many times, and I want them to just like bring back just occasionally the no charge breath.
They kind of did that in King of the Monsters, where remember when Millie Bobby Brown's on the ground and and Ghidorah's just about to just vaporize her, and then all of a sudden we hear a shh, and she gets saved at the last second by Godzilla, and she gives him that stupid knowing look. It's like he can't fucking see you.
It's silly.
But yeah, we don't hear the buildup, we don't hear the noise then, so.
One of my favorite anecdotes, so the podcast I did with my co-host Haley Mancini, she would bring in, she like basically read this the official Godzilla compendium, a 40-year retrospective by author J.D. Lee and Mark Cerasini. You probably know them, Matt, personally. You do?
I know JD. he's the guy who ran G-Fest for a really long time, and I haven't met Mark before, but I've read a lot of Mark's stuff.
Yeah, so that book has so many interesting tidbits about how these movies were made, and one of my favorite about the 1998 Godzilla movie, which I'm sure you guys all know, but for anyone who hasn't heard this, is fascinating. When they went to present the Godzilla design to Toho for the very first time in the office, Toho only had basically one request. They were like, "Look, we respect you. You're just coming off the heels of the Independence Day franchise, huge movie. We trust you to make an amazing Godzilla movie for us. Just one request: don't change his feet. Like, make sure that he has the right number of toes and everything." And they're like, "Yeah, no problem." So then they're in the office for the first time, about to unveil Godzilla, and Godzilla's under like a silk cloth, like a tarp, something like that. Then they remove it, and I think the book describes it as 10 minutes of silence.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of silence.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was just 10 minutes of them just staring at this thing.
So, sorry.
Yeah, and then the other thing, because it reminds me of the breath thing, is originally they didn't have any of the breath in the movie, and it tested so poorly with audiences that they went back and kind of added this half-ass like heat wave that came out of his mouth.
Yep.
Yeah, really disappointing on that one. But go ahead, Matt.
Oh, no. I was going to build on what you were saying because it's so interesting. The production of that movie has been picked apart so much over the last, because it was like 26 years ago that movie came out, and there's a whole generation of fans that grew up with that being their exposure to Godzilla, and then so they don't hate it, but they're definitely like, oh, okay, this isn't like what the rest of the franchise is, but I still have a big soft spot for this movie, and it's like, it's fine. Who gives a shit? We're all gonna die anyway, so like what you like. But in the intervening years, there has been a lot more has come out about that scene you're describing, that moment where the Toho crew was like kind of looking at it, and the apparently there is some conjecture to them basically having to go have a meeting and say, look, we've already gone through one whole production team for a completely different version of the movie. If we don't, like, there's a rumor that Devlin and Emmerich said it's this or nothing. Like, we're not changing anything. And so Toho was like, okay, so either we nix this because it's going to piss off the fans, or we lose out on millions of dollars in merchandising and advertising revenue and stuff. So it's like, yeah, I guess they even said like, if we can't change anything about it, then whatever, I guess we're just moving forward. And I think about that, how that would never happen these days. There's no chance.
No, and I'm glad. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I was just a side point that weirdly that movie is the movie that started the entire concept of Matt's Monster Movie Mondays, and yet we've never done that movie for Matt's Monster Movie Mondays.
I'm fucking sick of talking about it.
I do not hate that movie, by the way. It's a piece of shit. I agree, but I love that movie anyway.
I don't hate it either. I think it's perfectly watchable. I'm just fucking tired of talking about it.
You know,
That's
we
fair.
take it for granted that the movies that we end up like watching and growing up with, we just always assume they're good and the best, and we take it for granted that any movie that comes out as a remake, if we don't like it as much as the original, it's usually partly due to our own nostalgia. But the people who've seen those movies and came up, like for example, the original Star Wars, the trilogy that came out, there's people whose first introduction to Star Wars are those movies, and they love those movies. That is their frame of reference for Star Wars. They don't have anything to compare it to. And I'm kind of like that. I watch movies out of order all the time. I've seen Shrek 3. I haven't seen Shrek 2 or 1. I saw Die Hard 4 first. Then I went back and watched Die Hard 3, and I watched them in reverse order, and they continually got better. I'm like, oh my God, I love Die Hard 4. What didn't people like about this movie? Then I watched 3. I'm like, yeah, 3 was definitely a better movie, but I still enjoyed 4. And then I went back and watched 1. I'm like, holy shit, this 1 is amazing. And I was like, I just enjoyed 4 movies because I watched them in reverse order, and they kept getting better. Rather than watching them in the correct order, and they kept getting worse. Yeah, see, people in the comments, Radstar saying you've seen the worst Shrek movie.
Yeah.
When you put so at first I was about ready to be like, are you fucking kidding me? You've never seen Die Hard. But then saying that you did it in reverse order, that's actually fucking brilliant because
Sure.
yeah, like you see the shittiest Shrek, and now you can only go up from here.
But here's the thing: the shittiest Shrek is still a good movie if you don't have anything to compare it to. It's funny. It's very witty. The music was good. I liked everything about it. And then everyone's like, no, it's bad. You got to go see the original. I'm going to watch the original, and guess what? I'm going to enjoy multiple movies, whereas everyone else only enjoyed one.
That ties in a little bit to what I was talking about earlier about, like, just like whatever you like. And I mean, there's something to be said for just like watching a movie and just kind of letting it wash over you. And if you're just like kind of along for the ride, you're like, oh, it was all right, like, and then people will be like, oh, this is the worst movie ever. And then you kind of sit there and you think about it and you're like, do I not like it now? Like and everybody's opinion is different. There's some people who sit and watch a movie that are just fucking annoyed by it because they don't like a character. I think it was Lindsay Ellis who said, our like or dislike of films is purely emotional. And then it's about working backwards to rationalize why. Like I saw somebody who really did not like Godzilla x Kong, who did not like the new one at all, but her criticisms were kind of all over the map. Like I wasn't quite following. And then I well, no, I don't know if that's correct. And I was like, well, her opinion's not incorrect. She just didn't like the movie. She just maybe doesn't know how to articulate why she didn't like it. Like, being able to articulate why you didn't like something takes a lot of work and a lot of experience of talking about shit.
Yeah, it has to be a really shitty movie to be super easy to explain why you like it. That's totally fair. So,
like
okay, PB Jam asked a question that I want everybody to answer because it's a fun one.
Okay.
We were talking about the power-ups. Who's better, MonsterVerse Godzilla or -1 Godzilla?
Ooh.
Now for me, MonsterVerse Godzilla, I don't know. The light show and it seemed more mechanical in -1, and so it kind of took me out of it in a way that the MonsterVerse version does not. So while I enjoyed them both, I think I prefer MonsterVerse Godzilla's power-up.
I think it's kind of apples and oranges, because like the MonsterVerse Godzilla charge up you're excited for. The -1 Godzilla charge up, you're kind of like, what is happening? Oh, this is going to be really bad.
Yeah, the -1, he looks so menacing. You almost feel this like foreboding feeling when you see him about to blast, where it's like, oh fuck, I got to get out of the way, otherwise this is the end of my life. Whereas the other one, it's a little bit more like it's like a bass drop. You see it coming, you feel it coming, you're ready to cheer as soon as it hits. It's fun. And along the lines of what you were saying, Matt, like this new Godzilla movie, again, I went in like expecting to not like it and being grumpy. Same with the Barbie movie. Frankly, I went into that movie expecting to hate it and being grumpy, and I was like, these are mostly delightful movies. It's just fun. It's just a really fun watch. Like you have to be so devoid of joy to come out of this movie not smiling a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that sort of similar to what you guys both said, that the MonsterVerse Godzilla, we're gonna cheer for him, but like he's a good guy in these movies. He's the the good guy. And in -1, he's gonna hurt the people that we care about in there, so that makes a difference too. But if I'm going strictly, I'm not changing my answer. I still think if we're going strictly based on the coolness of it, I prefer MonsterVerse. But anyway, Jeff, you didn't answer the question. Which one do you think?
Oh, that's a tough one. As far as just separating out the Godzillas from the rest of the story, like especially in -1. I just like -1 so much because of the story that came along with it. I think I like the one in that universe better. It just it built up the story built them up, and yeah, that's my decision. My opinion on that.
That's fair.
Is that everybody?
Everybody what?
Everybody answered
opinion?
that question?
I think so.
Yeah.
Did-
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I like these questions a lot, by the way. It's just so much fun geeking out about Godzilla with all these, like genuine fans who just love the franchise and just think about it and talk about it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of these are folks that show up whenever I stream, which is really nice. Seeing all these familiar faces. I did my first live stream in several years a few weeks ago, and I did it through Restream or stream something, and like I was surprised that like I think I had like 800 viewers at one point, and it was just like a lot of these were were my regulars, like Radstar Father and Henshin John and stuff, and Alden, and they and the Godzilla fans, the ones that I interact with, are really cool and really nice, and I'm fortunate that they follow me around and are cool to my friends.
Yeah, that's great. I did 2 different podcasts, and I was trying to explain to a friend of mine that the difference in the audience of the Godzilla podcast had very sweet, very wholesome fans who are just like excited about monsters. It's such a breath of fresh air talking to Godzilla fans. They're just like, good, wholesome people who just like big monsters, and Godzilla's just like a hero to us. He really is.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely some dickheads in this fandom, no question, but there's dickheads in every fandom.
Yeah, I remember when I went down to Davenport to see I think it was a re-release of Godzilla 2000. We met some Godzilla fans there. Yeah, they were just some of the
it was
people.
Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, wasn't it?
Oh,
It was the first
is that
time
what
we
it
went to Davenport. Yeah, the first time we had to travel out of the area
Yeah.
just to watch a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, we got to go.
That's the only place they were showing it.
Yeah,
But I actually am Facebook friends with one of those guys now, and,
Oh, yeah.
and boy did they ever shit their pants when we were like, yeah, we're friends with Matt Frank. Oh my god, Jesus Christ, the one guy, I seriously, I think he put a load in his pants, like he genuinely was shitting himself over that. Oh wow,
that's weird.
and I was just like, yeah, because we were just like, yeah, you remember Matt said, and they're like, yeah, Matt, who's Matt? And I was like, oh, Matt Frank, and they're like, wait. That Matt Frank? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. It didn't occur. See, I knew Matt. I knew you. I didn't know you were like kind of a little bit famous in this whole monster place. Like you're kind of a big deal there, but I didn't know that when I first met you, and so it didn't occur to me that I should be careful about mentioning you in casual conversation with strangers.
It's fine. I'm like, I'm pulling a Lori over here. I'm just like.
I am so like every single person I have met who has had anything to do with the Godzilla franchise, I've been fortunate enough to have met, has been so chill and so down to earth and so just like humble with like their experience and like what they bring to the table and how fortunate we all are to have anything to do with this franchise at all. It's just amazing, like just the amount of talent and humility that comes with it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think a lot of us grow up just being these weird Godzilla dorks.
Yeah.
And like you said, Maddox, we're kind of like, we're like, well, I like my giant lizard, that's neat. And people are like, what's that? That's dumb. They have rubber suits. Rubber suits are dumb. And it's like, shut up.
I'll give you a personal anecdote. Like when I was in elementary school, my librarian forbid me from checking out the Godzilla books anymore because we had these Godzilla picture books that were from all the Destroy All Monsters series and the Monster Island book. It was just basically a picture from Monster Island.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I would check them out every single week, and she goes, "You can't check this out anymore." She goes, "You have to have read all 4 paragraphs in this book."
Yeah, I get it.
At that point, your parents should have just bought you a copy.
I mean, if I could find them, I would get them now. I remember that they had like an orange cover and black and white photos on some of them. They were just, I checked them out.
Are you shitting me? Matt's is like looking to the side, like I might have it.
I'm seriously trying to think if this is the one I'm thinking of because I have a bunch of them. I have
okay.
Anyway,
we've been here for like 2 hours now, so we better wrap it up. So I got final thoughts on the movie that we specifically came here to talk about.
Oh yes.
So Maddox, how about we start with you?
Final thoughts on the movie. Go see it. This is a very fun movie. It's not the one to introduce people to see Godzilla. Definitely not by any stretch of the imagination. But it was a lot of fun. I couldn't stop. Like my jaw dropped the whole time. You're just watching insanity unfold. It felt like an old Super Friends episode that was made into a movie with a huge budget. And at the end, it kind of pulled at your heartstrings. Like my friends really started caring about the characters.
Yeah. Nice. How about you, Jeff?
I also encourage you to go see it if you want to see wrestling moves. If you want to see kaiju doing cat stuff, I highly recommend it. It was lots of fun. I endorse it as well.
Nice. All right, Matt.
All right, for the next half hour, I will be explaining to you. I'll try to keep it short. Real quick, I did see. Dope. I wanted to note that Rat Star Father talked about how in the comments about how they got into Godzilla really late into 2020, but they've always liked monsters and reptiles and stuff, but they got bullied and told misogynist things, and it's like I have a couple of friends who are like femmes and thems who are also super into Godzilla or have been into Godzilla since they were younger, and it's like, you're a girl, why you like Godzilla, and it's like, because people are just going to like what they like, like what is it? There's a quote I saw somewhere recently that was, I don't have to explain why I like something. I just like it or something like that. It's like, I don't like it. I don't like things for a reason. I just like them. And like I said, you can backtrack and figure out why you like something or dislike something, but fucking whatever. Anyway, this movie is kind of the same way. It's definitely the sort of movie that is not good, but it's like I think I've said it a few times. It's dumb as a bag of hammers, but I love a bag of hammers. And just a big old clanky bag of hammers. I definitely would say that like if you're kind of annoyed by like big, loud Hollywood blockbusters and stuff, this is definitely not your speed. I think Maddox has the right of being like, I would not introduce people to Godzilla with this. Like, this is on the other end of the spectrum. I would personally lead with -1 if you want to introduce people to like something that's like, hey, well, here's a nice dipping your toe in sort of thing of like, it's the most accessible, I would say, because Shin Godzilla is great, but it is very dense. Like, it's a dense movie with a lot of like inside Japanese political jokes, which also makes it, if you're like an anime fan, you might get some of the jokes, but I do like that one a lot too. But anyway, yeah, I give this movie like 7 out of 10 babies used as melee weapons.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Oh, every time I see that, I chuckle. I think about it. Yeah, I think so too. 7 out of 10 seems apt with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me want, like, just remembering those parts makes me want to go watch it again. Like, another matinee. It's only like $5.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna see this again.
Yeah, for sure. My thoughts on it are just basically summarizing what everybody else said. Like, it's idiotic, it's ridiculous, and I loved it. And if you like crazy, fantasy action that literally does not, once it starts, it does not stop until the movie is over. So go pee first, but you should watch it. Yeah. And but like, I think Matt, you put it, like, everybody's feelings on what should have happened in this movie, you put it most succinctly in your last piece of art that you posted, and that was this.
Yeah.
Fucking kiss.
Yeah.
I had Scott. That stupid thing has 17,000 likes on Twitter.
Believe it.
And
it's fucking
I-
hilarious. Okay, D Fish, very pointedly, when she came back to tell me that she'd seen the movie, and she's like, "Yeah, Matt had it right. Yep." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And then you know that thing. I was like, "Oh yeah, I saw it." But yeah, like she specifically cited that picture as her thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's another reason Radstar Father gave it a 0 out of 10. That there wasn't actual monster kissing.
That's fair. That's fair.
I will say this: I'm glad they didn't try to ham-fist an origin story for Son of Kong or anything corny like that. Like I was also bracing for something like that. Like we don't need to know. This is fine. We got a little baby Kong. He's running around, and the first thing he does is use him as a cudgel. This is great.
There is a little, like, a blink and you miss it moment where you do see that he's one of multiple babies that are the same color as Scar King, because Scar King has just been banging all of the females.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, man, that's really interesting visual storytelling. I like that.
That tracks.
So,
That is interesting.
Yeah, but that's all you need. You just need a little boop. Same thing with Mothra. We don't freaking know what Mothra is. It's a giant psychic butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of my house. Like, I've been swinging him around so much he's got a tear in his arm.
Oh, dang.
Oh.
No. Anyway.
Okay. So, before we go, Jeff's not really in this community. I was gonna say, where's everybody? Where can we find you all on the internet? But like, yeah.
Jeff's around.
But yeah, Jeff's online somewhere. If you want, yeah, you guys know how to get a hold of me, and then I'll pass the message on to him. So that's, I guess, what we'll do. But where can we find you, Maddox?
I'm real Maddox on most platforms except Twitter. I think I'm Maddox Rules, but whatever. But yeah, mostly Instagram, Facebook, and I guess Blue Sky is a thing now, and Threads. It's real Maddox there. And if you guys ever want to hit me up and talk about Godzilla, like, swear to God, like, I've had so many just DM conversations about it, and I'm super happy to. So
excellent.
Yeah.
And Matt, where can we find you?
Well, you can find me over at mattfrankart.net is my main website. And I have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/mattfrankart. I have my big cartel store now, which has been doing extremely well. We're very happy with the numbers. I got an email saying we were in the top 10 of new stores on Big Cartel, which I was really amazed by. It's been a huge help when con season has been slow. Really, if you can find me just by, like, Googling Matt Frank and Godzilla, you'll probably find my stuff pretty quickly. Like, Spankzilla85 has been my Twitter handle since, I think, college. I didn't think I'd ever use Twitter. Yeah, I'm on all the things, so you guys can find me.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's all I got.
Well, thanks, Matt and Maddox and Jeff, for coming and talking about Godzilla with me. And you know what? I think that with all this talk of bullying over loving Godzilla, if it ain't hurting anybody else and you're loving it, then you can tell whoever's bullying you to have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up, and you can tell them I said so.
Yeah, don't like those are people who don't care if you live or die, so their opinions don't matter.
Yes. You ain't hurting nobody by liking Godzilla, so tell them to go fuck themselves.
Hit him with a baby.
Yeah.
Hit him with a baby.
Hit him with a baby monkey.
Hit him with a baby.
All right. Thank you all for the very lively comment section too. Appreciate seeing that, loving it, and hope you'll come back next week to watch Critical Affection again. And I'm not gonna do the Laguna, go back at lagunastudios.net is our the hoodie campaign, the X series hoodie campaign. Go check that out. Go.lagunastudios.net. Death's Kiss comic that's we're working on with Russell Nolte. Well, it's done. We're not working on it. We're just raising money so we can print it. Anyway, go look at those things. But otherwise, tell people who don't like Godzilla to shut up. That's my thing. So.
Subscribe to Laguna Studios because I might be working with them soon on some stuff. So
Laguna is amazing. Just a constant stream of amazing work coming out.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And we got so much shit planned for this whole year. I had to block off December because I'm like, we cannot do anything in December. We just can't. So we had no December. Okay. Thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful evening. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Bye.
Cheers, everyone.